All right, we're back for the bad. This is part 2 of our Miami recap. All right, Sean, you and I were talking before we recorded, and we were about to get into it. So I figured it was let's start recording and get right into it. My bad this week was just Red Bull entirety and Ferrari entirety. Who were your bads this week?
I'm gonna say it has to be Tsunoda and Lawson, and I'm gonna also lump Alonso in there as a third.
Hmm. Okay. We were getting into Lawson, so we might as well just, since it's on the tip of our head, let's talk about him right away. What a interesting weekend for him. What did you think?
It was a shit show, and it was a shit show in the way that Lawson makes it a shit show. We saw it last year, and people took it as a sign that he was ready for more, where he likes to get into these scraps in the back of the pack over no points whatsoever, and hopefully he comes out on top. But that's not the way it works. And if you don't know how to drive, you end up DNFing. And that's effectively what we saw all weekend from him. Now, in the sprint, I don't think he DNF'd technically, or did he?
No, he didn't, and he was actually in the points until they gave him his much deserved penalty.
There we go. That's what it was. So, very similar incidents both times. And how many times do you have to try the same thing before you realize it's not going to happen? So, in the sprint, okay, Alonso pushed him off. That was pretty clear. But he pushed him off into the runoff, and there was enough room for Lawson to re-enter the track safely behind Alonso. All right, and this is similar to what we talked about Piastri and Max in Saudi, where Max went off the track and passed Piastri. Sure, the appropriate thing to do would have been to back out of it and not pass him. And Lawson could have done that in Miami. It wasn't a shit ton of runoff like there was in Saudi, but there was enough that he could have gotten his car through there unscathed, come out behind Alonso, and waited for the penalty. Or actually done the racing driver thing and tried to fucking pass him. But instead, tried to drive through him. Like, I don't know what you saw, Nick, but I saw a driver get pushed wide and then say, fuck it, I'm not turning the wheel, and literally try to drive through another car.
Yeah, it's like Alonso wasn't there in his mind.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not racecraft. If that's the decision you're making as a race driver, you probably shouldn't be on the track.
Yeah.
Then in the race barely got started, and what do you know? Gasly and Lawson come together.
Doohan.
Sorry.
Yeah. Doohan and Lawson. Yeah,
Pink cars.
It's bad enough that Lawson got dropped. He had to try and squeeze Doohan from the outside to end Doohan's career. More on that later, but yeah.
Yes. So Doohan, not Gasly. My bad.
That's okay.
Ends Doohan's race, and he keeps going. Just to retire later with a fist-sized hole in the side of his bodywork. Like, it was his own doing. They didn't need to be that close on lap 1 at the back of the pack. This is not the making of a champion. This is the making of a one-year driver.
Well,
and I'm not talking about Doohan in that case.
We've heard for 2 years Lawson's the future of F1. Yeah. Anyway. You saw Behrman navigate through that backfield the first lap and sneak through 2 drivers to make a nice pass. And Lawson tried the same thing and destroyed 2 cars.
Yes.
I'm not a fan of Behrman, obviously. We all know that. But if he can do it and Lawson can't, that's not good.
Yeah. And that's just it. We've seen a lot out of Behrman this year so far. That's impressed me. And I think it's impressed you too, given your bias towards him.
No comment.
And you would think that someone who had 11 Grand Prix starts going into the season would have a leg up on some of these rookies. Yes, his confidence has been shattered by Red Bull. I'm going to say intentionally.
Wow.
But if he was as good as people made him out to be, he'd buck up and do it. He'd show them that he deserved to be there. He's losing to his rookie teammate. He's losing to Ollie Behrman. He's losing to Kimi Antonelli.
Well said.
This is not what we need.
Yeah, he...
and then at the same time,
sorry.
I'm going to add another one that you just reminded me, Nick. The Ferrari engines are bad this weekend.
Okay, well, when we get to my take on Ferrari, we'll talk about that more.
Yes.
You said that perfectly, because Gasly bucked up and showed Red Bull what they were missing for the next 6 years. Lawson's just fallen apart. If you were the champion that Gasly claimed he was, got screwed, arguably, did some of it to himself. Lawson, you're in the same position.
Mm-hmm.
But you're making it worse now. So I don't even talk about him anymore when he fucks up now. Unless now the next time I'll talk about him is when he blows like a podium potential, if that ever comes around. That's the only other time I'll talk about him.
So we should never hear his name come out of your mouth.
Yeah, I didn't even mention him in my bad.
Yeah. And I think the comparison to Gasly is pretty apt, because I think he got just as much leeway as Gasly did. Gasly got a few more races, but from the beginning, it was clear that Gasly wasn't going to last. But at least Gasly didn't hit the bottom so drastically hard. Like, Gasly hit bottom and bounced. Lawson hit bottom and fucking buried.
Splatted.
Like, Gasly got back into the Toro Rosso and at least made an effort. Holy fuck. Lawson is still at the back of the goddamn field. And if he doesn't qualify at the back, he gets put to the back very fucking quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I can't explain it. I don't know where it went. And you know, Nick, and anybody who's listened to us knows, I was an advocate for Liam Lawson based on his junior career, based on his time in Super Formula in Japan. But now that he's in F1, holy fuck, has he blown it?
Yeah. He might, if he just finished that 2023 season right after that confidence in Super Formula, it might be a different story. But I think he just stayed on the sidelines too long. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I think, Red Bull fucking it up.
Yeah.
The leadership at Red Bull is not what it was. And I'll tease it now. I'll be putting something up on Instagram that talks about that. It's been burning a hole in the back of my mind for a while. So go check the Instagram channel after this for my opinion on that.
Are you done with Lawson?
I'm done with him.
Let's go to figuratively and literally, I think.
Yes.
Let's go to Red Bull while you have it, because I said Red Bull entirety was bad this weekend, and you said Tsunoda, so we'll combine it right now. There's not much for me to say about Red Bull, so I'll just say this. Every week they fuck up a pit stop and throw away points, and this time threw away points for Max. They threw away some, you could say, some small points before in the other races. But how is a team that revolutionized pit stops, like getting as Ted Kravitz said in the sprints, the definition of an unsafe release from their key driver, Max Verstappen? What the fuck happened there? And Max, to me, also didn't have a good weekend. I think something he did in the first couple laps defending Norris and Piastri seemed to have messed up his balance. And I applaud him for racing hard and doing what he could all weekend, but you gotta be perfect right now. And when you're not perfect, you have weekends like this. But yeah, there's like I said it before, I'll say it again. Leadership at Red Bull so far fucking off. It's now infecting the pit stop team. And it's bad. I have a quick theory just before you talk about Tsunoda. I think they're trying to make it so uncomfortable for Max that he wants to leave. Because in their mind, if he leaves, they can start rebuilding now. And they can start getting a car where two drivers can drive it. Because it's right now, for every 100 points Max gets, Tsunoda gets 5. That's not Tsunoda's fault. But for every 20 points Max gets, Tsunoda will get 1. You can't win a constructors that way. And you can keep developing and potentially still losing with Max in their mind. This is their mind. I think they should do that. But in their mind, they're thinking we can keep doing that. And by 2028, Max leaves, retires, whatever. Or we can kind of push him out now and start over. And by 2028, we're in a better position, a more balanced car for two drivers. Because that's the only thing that, to me, that can explain how they just keep fucking him up. I don't get it.
So I'll break there for a second, Nick. There's a couple of things you mentioned I want to chat about, but one, we've got the ship of Theseus topic.
Mm-hmm.
The team has fallen apart, right? We don't have Jonathan Wheatley. We don't have Adrian Newey. We don't have a number of people behind the scenes that are not as big names. One of them is Callum Nicholas. And most people don't know the name, but most people have seen him. He is often shown in the Drive to Survive footage of Red Bull. He's often shown in anywhere where they do pit stops. He's the one black guy on Red Bull's pit stop crew and in the garage. He has a Guinness World Record for changing a tire.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize he was gone.
He is no longer part of the pit stop crew.
Oh, yeah. Wow. That's a big loss.
And his skill in changing a tire is irrelevant. He genuinely seemed to be a leader of that group. And I believe he's still with Red Bull, just not in that role. Right? So good for him. But at the same time, this is what we've been talking about, the ship of Theseus. As the ship gets damaged, as boards get changed out, the ship looks the same, feels the same, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
Things change, for good or for bad, but it's not the same. Now, the other one I want to bring up here is Hanlon's razor. Never attribute to malice that which can be adequately explained by stupidity.
Agreed.
I think you're thinking too much. Your comment about them wanting to force Max Verstappen to leave, I don't think there's that much thought going into it. I think this is a characteristic of Hanlon's razor. They don't understand what's happening with that car. They don't understand what's happening with the team. There's potentially too much infighting, and they're too stupid to see what it's doing to the team. They're too busy fighting McLaren over the fact that they think McLaren's putting water in their tires.
I saw that.
I don't know if you saw any of the nonsense that came out of this weekend.
I did. Yeah, they're you're right. They're lashing out instead of fixing their fucking car. You know? Christian Horner? Yeah. Well said, Sean. That was perfect.
Change your fucking car.
Yes. That is so perfect. I think you're right about Hanlon's razor. I'm just saying at this point, how do you not start thinking about malice or self-inflicted wounds? But I think you're right. When you look at the bigger picture, it's probably just stupidity. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's attractive to look at the malice, right? We're drawn to conspiracy theories naturally. People are drawn to thinking that there's an enemy out there. But in most cases, it's not. Most cases, just people are too fucking stupid.
Yeah.
And I think there's been so much hype around Red Bull and what they've done, and they've been made out to be this mythical team, but ultimately they're human, right? You go back to the Untouchables, right? There's that scene in the elevator where the elevator opens on the main floor and everybody's dead, and on the wall it's in blood is written touchable. That's where we are right now with Red Bull.
That's a very good analogy. And you listed leaders in every part of that team that are now gone. And
exactly.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think the main leader needs to go now because they're all leaving
Yes.
partially because of him. But he's already too late. He's already left it too late. I think he should have resigned after last year. But I think, yeah,
You know, it would be absolutely phenomenal for Franz Toast to come out of retirement to replace Christian Horner
that's brilliant. I wasn't even thinking of
for
that.
like 1 year. Give him the rest of this season in 1 year, and I think he can make something of it.
Yeah, he would turn to use the like tongue in cheek that he would turn the ship around because he would find the good youth that they desperately need if say Max leaves or Max retires, and he would get everything in order. He would get the right personnel in place. That's brilliant, Sean.
Yes. And maybe we might see fucking Helmet Marco disappear.
That he's part of the problem, and I think Christian trying to one up him and fight him has destroyed this team. I said that preseason.
Absolutely.
I said that preseason, and yeah, and I think we're in agreement on this. Yeah, that those two fighting each other have fucked up a lot since Dietrich. How do you say it? Matitich died. Mateschitz. Since he died, they said it. They've said it a million different ways. They're fighting each other to see who's the top dog, and they've destroyed a team that should be running away with this era. Anyways, you want to talk about Tsunoda a bit?
Yeah. So it's largely the same criticism I had of him last weekend, where he gets into Q3 and he struggled to get into Q3 this weekend. That's a bit of a difference, right? He didn't seem to be on it all weekend. In the sprint qualifying, he didn't qualify well. He was out in SQ1, and they ended up starting him from the pit lane, which with the delay and the red flag allowed him to start with everybody else somehow. I don't quite understand it, but nobody complained, so it's not a problem.
Sorry, I'm just going to interject there. Yeah, that was another Red Bull fuck up. Max slowed him down and Red Bull didn't order Tsunoda through. But yeah, and that's why he fucked up sprint qualifying.
And then Max retired.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, go on.
Oh, sorry, you're talking. Yeah. No,
in
exactly.
the sprint qualifying, yeah. But yeah, go on.
Yeah. So he gets into Q3 in the qualifying for the Grand Prix, and then just sits in 10th, and didn't make it to the line. And I don't necessarily blame him for that. That's a team problem. They didn't get him out there in time to put a lap in. But holy fuck, he missed the checkered flag by 1 second. Like, come on. If you're a championship winning team at this level, you should know when to get the fucking guy out there. But at the same time, if you're the driver on the grid and you're trying to get there and you're trying to prep the tires so that you have the best temperature going into the flying lap and you want to leave it as late as possible, I get that. But if you're a driver and you know you're not going to make it, and you know you're not going to make it because the team should be telling you that it's going to be close, you should be willing to trade off a little bit of tire temperature for making a lap. Because what ended up happening is he didn't even get a fucking lap because he couldn't make it to the line. I would rather have tires that are over or under temperature and attempt a lap than not make a lap. And this is what I was saying last weekend. Like, he doesn't seem to know what to do in Q3. He's gold when it comes to Q1, Q2, no problem. But in Q3, he thinks something changes. It's the same game. You go out there and you put the car around the track. So, to me, it was a bad weekend for Yuki for a number of reasons. One, this inherent inability to do anything in Q3, in the Red Bull at least. And then two, I don't know what the fuck happened sprint qualifying, but clearly he wasn't happy with the car. And then all of a sudden he comes back out of nowhere. Like, there's still some inconsistency there. And I'm willing to give it to him because he does seem to be better with that car than Lawson was. Right? He's not pinned to the back. Like we said earlier, he gained 10 places on merit and then gained another 6 or whatever it was with penalties. So he knows what he's doing, but he still has a lot to to come up against. And I think if he had had preseason in that car, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But he's effectively had his preseason up until now. So hopefully he starts to get rid of some of these issues that I've just mentioned.
Yeah, for the constructor's sake, for competitive sake, like you can't squeeze all these points out of Max, like we said, and get almost nothing out of your second driver. And there's the lack of urgency, I think, is what you were trying to say in Q3. Like I there's no failing if I don't do anything. It's like, yeah, no, that's still a fail. That's still a fail. And like you said last week, this is now the big boys team. You have to start acting like you're fighting for pole, not just happy to be there. So, yeah, I don't know what's going on there right now. Maybe it's just a bad track for that Red Bull, and maybe we'll see Yuki back at a course he was really good at with. What were they last year? So many names. What were they?
It was V-Carb.
V-Carb. Yeah, he was really good at Imola last year. He's got to make it happen next race. Otherwise, like it could be a long season for him.
Yeah, but Imola last year, did Max win Imola?
He did.
Yeah, and he was there the week before testing, right? But last year we had the clusterfuck of people saying, oh, F1's outgrown Imola. We haven't outgrown Monza. How the fuck do we outgrow Imola? But Red Bull came back, and that was a strong track for them last year. And Yuki was good last year with V-Carb. So hopefully the two of them together can get a good points haul for Red Bull, because right now it's looking a little thin for Red Bull.
With every week.
They're 141 points behind first place.
Jesus.
They are exactly the amount of points back from first place that Mercedes has.
Yeah, Mercedes looks amazing simply because Red Bull can't get it together.
Yes.
And Ferrari.
And that's exactly where I was going. Mercedes looks amazing because Red Bull's shit a brick and Ferrari's gone nowhere. So, on that note, Ferrari, Nick.
I'll just say one thing before we do that. Just the last 2 years, like you said, Max came back at Imola and started, and I think that was probably where he won his championship, those few races, Imola, Canada, Spain. And 2022 Imola is the 1-2 that Red Bull got and turned the momentum on Ferrari. So yeah, if ever they're going to do it, that's the time. Ferrari is just awful. I don't know. Like, you're not supposed to ever be slower than the Williams this year, I thought. And they just keep trying to make these things happen with Leclerc and Hamilton, and they're just pissing Hamilton off. And once again, getting nothing from Leclerc, nothing of substance from Leclerc. And yeah, like what else do I say that I haven't said a million times about them? Nothing's changed. And then you're still having arguments with strategy for the world to see. You're still fucking up strategy in 2025. I thought 2 years ago you fixed this when you hired Vasseur.
I have to say, I saw some nonsense today on an Audi topic, but I'll save that for another time. People blame Binotto for strategy fuck-ups and poor decision-making. Like, we have to stop blaming the team principals. Ferrari's gonna Ferrari. Doesn't matter who you put there. They're gonna fuck it up.
No, I bring up Vasseur because he came in with the express mandate that he said, yeah, don't worry, I'm gonna get this in line. That's my only goal. We're gonna fix that. But you're right. Ferrari's gonna Ferrari.
But then he wasn't allowed to choose a second driver.
Yeah.
He didn't choose Hamilton.
He makes it seem like he really wants him there. You're right, but John Elkann did. You're right.
Because he's got to play the party game, right?
Mm-hmm. But that's
the Italians are fascist after all. Despite
anyway,
how much you claim to not be.
Hey, well, Mussolini got people working, as far as I was told. Anyway, I come from. I'm a half breed, Sean.
and he
Remember?
ended up hung from his balls.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the other half, come on.
The other half is an interesting half. I won't get into it much here, but that was one of the few anti-fascist, anti-communist families from the Middle East. You're either one or the other in the Middle East, so I'm very proud of that side of the family. The but come on, that's pretty funny. The other side, come on, yeah. All right.
I'll let you dig your own grave there.
No, the other that was funny what you said. I just you're right. Yeah, Bonotto wasn't necessarily the problem. It was, as we said preseason, it was Mekis, Laurent Mekis, who was doing all the strategy fuck ups when Bonotto was there, and he was fired. I mean, sorry, promoted to VCarb, now Racing Bulls. Yeah, I don't know what it's going to take for them to fix this season, but everything we warned about preseason is unfortunately coming true for Ferrari. And then just weekends like this are just so disastrous that we have to point it out. Don't rely on Hamilton for development, but also what the hell is Leclerc going to do? You need to give both of these drivers a good car, and instead you're just kind of fucking around with them for everybody to see. I don't know what else they can do.
Yeah.
This season's getting close to the point where it might be a write-off, but I'm not gonna call that yet because there's still 18 races to go. But god damn,
I mean, statistically, it's not a write-off, but it's a write-off. You've got over 100 points difference, and not Red Bull 141, and you have a driver who's capable of winning. You're, what is this now? Give me a second. My fast math is not great.
they're 94 points or something. Oh yeah, by the way, they're only a few points behind Red Bull.
Yes, they're 30-something points behind Red Bull. It's 152 points to first place, and a team that cannot get their drivers on the podium. So statistically, yes, you could score that many points in 18 races. Realistically, it's not happening.
No, they'll be happy for a podium. Like, I want to quote the old Indianapolis Colts coach. Remember, they asked him, they said, what do you think about your chances for the playoffs? And he said, playoffs? Remember that clip? I don't know if you ever remember that.
What was that accent?
That was his accent. He was like a Southerner. He was like, playoffs? I'm trying to win a game here. I forgot that guy's name. And, don't even talk about the podium, Ferrari. You can't even finish in the top 6 right now on merit. They're now worse than 2021.
Yeah.
Jesus. Anyway,
no, it's a shit show.
It is a fucking shit show. Hamilton couldn't even get into Q3. He's not bad.
I don't know.
You don't know what?
No, sorry. I was just going to say I don't know what happened there, but yeah, go ahead.
He's not bad. He's Lewis Hamilton. He's 7-time world champion. But if he's struggling this bad, and the only thing he has to look forward to is it being a year older each year, where does this go? They're going to need a fucking miracle next year in order to get him in a winning position. So I don't know, man. Like, what were they thinking signing him? What were they thinking keeping Leclerc? They got all the same problems as Red Bull, but twice the delusion. So
yeah, but that's quintessentially Ferrari, no?
No, you're right. I know. This is why I've given up on them. It's just they legitimately told us preseason, yeah, we're fighting the constructors this year.
And they thought they would. I 100% believe that they thought they would.
No, you're right.
The problem is they changed concepts. They changed their suspension concept. So now this car is not what it was last year. They're fighting with a new car 1 year away from a regulation change. It was the stupidest decision they could have made.
Wow.
I don't care if you think it's legitimately better. You have 1 year before everything gets upended. You do not change concepts at this point.
Wow. Yeah. I got nothing else to add to that. Yeah, that's a big mistake. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, you want to talk about Alonso before we delve into this Duhan Alpine situation?
We'll talk about Alonso quickly, and then I have another one I forgot to mention, which is the how do I want to phrase this? Anyway, let's talk about Alonso. I don't know what happened to Alonso this weekend. Stroll managed to sneak in some points we talked about. So Stroll continues to be the only point scorer for Aston, which is frightening, considering they have a two-time champion on their team.
Yeah.
A 45-year-old driver who has been in F1 for 20 years. He has the record for the most starts of any racing driver in F1. Gets into tangles with drivers that have sub 20 starts and makes stupid problems for himself. Cannot qualify. For someone who prides himself on driving bad cars very well, he certainly hasn't done a good job of driving a bad car. Going back to the conversation last year we had about Paul Moynihan and his comments about Alonso. Now, his comments were in a positive sense about Alonso, but it got me thinking about the context of the comment in the sense that it provides insight into Alonso's mindset that he genuinely believes everybody else doesn't know what they're doing and he's the only one that's good at driving, which is incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what we're seeing. He pushes Lawson wide. Lawson reacts in a rookie manner and causes him to DNF in the sprint. Okay. You could say it was a racing incident. You could say it was Lawson's fault. Fine. Yeah, sure. Okay. Alonso should have the mindset that he's in the back of the pack at that point, surrounded by rookies. He's not fighting for points. He's not fighting for anything, really. So why bother, especially in a sprint? And then we get to the Grand Prix. Again, qualifies abysmally. Doesn't really do much. And I don't know if Sky showed it, Nick, but there was one point early on in the race where Alonso just went around. Just absolutely dropped it.
I did see that.
Yeah, he took a little bit of curb, but it was the most innocuous spin. I don't know how it happened. It's like he just wanted to turn the car around. And that put him down at the back, and he went nowhere. Like, why are we doing this? The guy's 45 years old. Sure, he can still drive a racing car. He can probably drive one 10 times better than you or I could.
Oh, for sure.
But why are we doing this? Why are we listening to people deep throat this guy, to use a Nick term, when he doesn't have it anymore? His substantially younger teammate, his substantially less experienced, less competent teammate is besting him. Why do we allow this, Nick?
You saw the cracks last year, to add to your point. Did you really need to sign him for two more years, Aston Martin? You're right. Why is this happening?
Right. And I get that there are plenty of old drivers. Right. Kevin Magnussen and Jan Magnussen raced together in WEC.
I don't ever
But
want to see
WEC
that.
is so much different. WEC is so much different. You can't compare the two. You have proportionally more older drivers in WEC than you do in F1. And you can have people analyze this and tell you all sorts of different reasons why. But there is a reaction time benefit to being young that very steeply drops off as you age. And I'm not saying that's the reason Alonso's bad. I'm just giving an example of why F1 is not an old man sport. And Alonso isn't old. I'm not trying to say that either. Don't get me wrong.
Not young.
But he's not young, exactly. We're not young, and we're younger than he is. So at some point, you have to know when to call it quits. And if he's not going to call it quits, someone has to call it for him. And unfortunately, Zach Brown's not doing us any favors by saying he would take him back.
Yeah. Would you? Someone should call that bluff.
No. He did clarify he would do that in WEC, but that's another story.
Aston Martin is another delusional team. I think we should say that. If they give up on Alonso now, and you're right, they probably should. Because, yeah, the Alpine's about to drop Duhan. Lawson's already been dropped. But if anyone, based on the 6 races we've seen, has been horrendous, it's Fernando Alonso. Like, if anyone has completely missed expectations, it's really, he's number one. And to the point where Aston Martin has to do a very hard thing and drop him right now if they want to get anywhere near what they were last year, let alone a championship team. I don't feel sorry for him, though, because...
I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but at this point, I'd put Pedro De La Rosa in the fucking car.
5 to 6 years older than him? Nah,
he's older than Alonso, sure. Yeah. But put him in and see what the fuck happens.
No, I think he just hit his cliff. And shame on Aston Martin for signing him for 2 more seasons. Shame on the media, like you said. I think you nailed it, the deep-throating of this guy. He's still got it. In the right car, he'll be a champion. I think Max said that 2 years ago because he knew he was no real threat. And Max does that sometimes where he praises people that are not good because he'd rather not have to worry about them. And I think that's kind of what's happening there. If Fernando Alonso's a bad driver in what could be a good car, it's one less driver that the other championship contenders have to worry about. Because if it's Vettel in that car, 100% that car is still fighting for the top 5 in the constructors.
Yeah. No, and that's exactly it. And that's part of what I've talked about previously with Antonelli. Not that I think Antonelli's a bad driver, but he's a rookie. And when you look at the results, Antonelli, in what appears to be a really decent car, is sitting 7th in the Constructors' Championship, or sorry, 6th in the Constructors' Championship. Yeah. Are you telling me that Antonelli is a better driver than Alonso? Because according to Alonso, he should be absolutely wringing the neck of this Aston Martin to get everything possible out of it. So is Stroll a better driver than Alonso? Is Antonelli a better driver than Alonso? No.
Yeah. Well said.
He isn't.
Well, maybe this year, because it just might be the end of the road for this guy. And I don't know how all the King's horses and all the King's men are going to put Humpty Dumpty and back together again, because like it's going to be quite a bit of gaslighting by Sky Sports and F1.com to keep telling us that Fernando Alonso belongs in F1. But yeah, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say you missed an opportunity there, but that's fine.
I got to think on that one.
I would have said all the King's horses and all the King's men couldn't put Alonso back together again.
What?
Flow's nicer.
Humpty Dumpty's... I'm a child at heart. Humpty Dumpty was obvious choice. All right.
Well, let me correct that. You're a child.
Should have ended the episode. Should just fucking stop the episode. Last episode. Okay. All right. Do you want to add anything else about Alonso?
No, I think I've said all that there is to be said.
And you went on a great rant, and that's going to go down as one of your classically excellent rants. So I might clip that. I might short it. You might see that on YouTube in a few weeks. You said you had another...
That's the end of me.
You said you had another bad from that. Or should we just get into Alpine?
Yeah, let me go off on this one quickly. And I think I went off on it in more detail than I'm going to go off on it here in our private text message chain. I'm done with the pink cars. The V-Carb, the sugar-free Red Bulls didn't need to be pink. Oh, it's a special Miami livery, sure. Who the fuck cares? Why pink?
Yeah.
I don't like pink. I never have. And this isn't anything other than I just don't like pink. I'm not even a big fan of red. Why are we making cars pink? Like BWT, I get it. Their corporate logo is pink. Alpine's supported by BWT, so BWT cars have pink liveries, sure. I fucking hate it. It's not a nice color. Why did we make the Racing Bulls pink? The one thing they did on that livery, making the wheel covers can tops, that was clever. But guess what? They didn't fucking run it. The best thing they did with that livery, they took off on Friday. Why the fuck were these cars pink? You asked the question, and I gave you a response, and I won't go into that response, but can we stop this? It served no purpose. It wasn't good. It didn't look good at all. The white car looks phenomenal. Can we get over these American special liveries that are absolute garbage? Like the ones that they do in Las Vegas are total fucking trash as well.
Yeah, not to mention Ferrari.
Just knock it off.
Yeah, the Ferrari with their crappy blue and red one too. Nobody seemed to like, and I didn't like it either. And yeah, you're right. Racing Bulls went from the best looking car to the worst looking car in one color change. And Miami has nothing to do with pink. Nothing.
Yes.
So,
yeah. The Ferrari thing, you just got me started on this now, so I'm going to roll with it. The Ferrari thing, do you know where the blue comes from?
No, HP?
HP, yeah. But Ferrari has a history of racing blue in North America.
Ah.
Because Enzo Ferrari got pissed off with whatever racing division it was. I can't remember at this point. And they said, okay, well, if that's the case, we're going to take the Italian racing color off of the car. Because just like British racing green, Italian racing red, right? That's where that comes from. That's why the Ferraris are red. That's why the Alfa Romeos are red. It's the national racing color. So Enzo Ferrari got pissed off at some point and said, fine, in the US, we'll take it off. So he raced one race or one season, whatever the fuck it was, in blue. Because blue is an Italian color as well, but it's not the racing color. That's where the blue comes from. So that's why every time they come to fucking Miami, they tease this blue car. Well, if you're going to fucking do it, just do it. And if you're not going to do it, don't bother.
Gee.
What they did this weekend was fucking garbage. You couldn't even really see it in the race.
Sorry, I got you started.
I didn't know this was in me until we started talking about it.
Got some trauma from old Italian bullshit. Okay. Going
and
off.
I'm not Italian. That's the fucking surprising part.
I know. I was going to say you've been going off on Italians all night. It's fine with me. You're lucky. Alpine. Speaking of a blue team with no future, just had Oliver Oakes resign today. Oliver Oakes resigned today.
Yes.
Fighting for what you and I are assuming is Jack Doohan. I went off on what I thought about Doohan in the first episode of season 2, so you guys can listen back to that. The kid's on our right. He obviously was always the wrong hire, but all I'm just going to say, just so I don't go off for 25 minutes, is once you hired him, stick with him for at least a season. What you're doing to him right now is ridiculous. It is nonsense. You can't see anything from these first 7 races. They have the audacity to say he's got great underlying pace. Okay, then let him see it out. Let him develop his racecraft. Try.
Right.
Like, you gaslit us and said, oh, we're hiring him because we want to show that the Alpine, young drivers crew still has something. Just because Oscar Piastri left doesn't mean we've lost faith in our youth program. Well, you're not really showing it that well, are you? And you're going to replace him with another kid who also crashed a few times, who also just overachieved a little bit, sort of. You have to remember with Colapinto, the Williams was the 5th fastest car at the time, and they're saying, oh well, he had an average finishing position of 10.6. Yeah, so then that's technically last if it's the 5th fastest car in that moment. So you're going to offload one rookie because he crashes and is unreliable for another rookie in a better car who crashed and was unreliable. And I like Colapinto. I do. I think they should have just waited to sign him to begin with and not sign Doohan. But to do Doohan this dirty is just awful. And it's typical nonsense Alpine. But yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah. especially after Miami, where we heard it in qualifying. He was absolutely livid with the team. They did not get him out. They did not give him the opportunity to put on the lap. And I agree with it. Looking back at it, he was not in a place to put in a lap that was reasonable. If they had took a more conservative strategy, maybe he got an extra lap in Q1 to get him to a place where he could at least say he put in a valiant effort to get out of there. But no, they waited until it was impossible for him to do so. So with Ollie Oaks resigning, air quotes resigning, it seems clear now that he was the one fighting for Doohan. And it seems clear that we're probably going to lose Doohan.
Yeah.
And I've said it as well. And it's my same sort of sentiment that I had with Lawson. You've made your decision. Sit in it. Right or wrong. If you've made your decision, give him at least half a season. Change him out after Spa. If you can't hack it, change him. But give him half a season. Prior to this, he had one race in Abu Dhabi. Only because Flavio got sick of Esteban Ocon's shit. So Doohan benefited from Flavio, and now Doohan's going to suffer because of Flavio.
Well said.
Frankly, Flavio needs to go.
Oh, absolutely.
He is a dinosaur of F1. He does not belong in modern F1. And you and I talked about it during the day. My opinion is that Alpine will probably cease to exist as a team because of Flavio. Not that this is their intent, but Flavio is doing what he did with Benetton and with Renault, which at the time was successful for them. But F1 has changed so much since he has not been allowed to be in F1. Let's keep that in mind.
Yeah.
That his brand, his particular brand of business and his particular brand of managing an F1 team doesn't work anymore. It's similar to what we've said about Eddie Jordan, and you and I both have respect for Eddie Jordan, but the way he handled drivers and everything else just doesn't work these days. And that's where we're heading now with Alpine and Flavio. So, best of luck. I hope Doohan keeps the seat, but if he doesn't, I hope Alpine burns and dies.
But by his own estimation, he was never that good when it came to the racing. He admitted him and Jordan were promoters. They were great guys for sponsorship, for business. But the only good thing he did was grab Michael Schumacher. And I think I've said this before, but Michael built that team with the people around him. Michael found the value in the engineers there. Ross Brawn was nothing for years. Rory Byrne was nothing until Michael came and brought the inspiration. That's what built that team. I'm not just trying to give Michael all the credit. What I'm saying is Briatore hung on to that. And the second Michael left, like I've said before, look up the 96 season. When defending champions Benetton, I don't think they got a win and finished third. I think they got like 25% of the points that they got the year before. That's catastrophic, considering you have almost all the same management in there. He was never that good.
But what the diehards will say, Nick, and just to play devil's advocate, is he picked Schumacher and he picked Alonso.
But we've talked about 2005 a million times before. I don't want to rehash it again. Yeah, he picked Alonso, but Alonso was never winning anything until the regulation change that destroyed Ferrari, destroyed Michael, destroyed whatever it was. It was a very unique regulation change. And that's where they won. And
I'm with you.
They would have never won otherwise of
and
that.
I'm with you, but yeah. And there's another side to this where Flavio is Alonso's manager, was Alonso's manager, right? Are you starting to see the parallels here between Alonso being the arrogant twat who thinks he's the best?
Well said.
And Flavio being an arrogant twat that thinks he's the best?
Mm-hmm. I did.
These are not good for F1.
They're okay for F1 until they're really not. Until I think they both hit a cliff. They both hit a cliff, and I think that's what you were alluding to, yeah. Briatore, you can't have 3 race contracts like Mark Webber had when he's first signed for Minardi anymore. You know, like you can't have stuff like that. They don't have the testing or the ability to go out and pay for cars to go on the track for 12 hours at a time. You got to give these kids at least half a season at this point.
Right. And this is, in my world of things of thinking about it, this is where humans don't like change. Right? Some of us like change more than others. Nobody likes change, but some of us can deal with it and some of us can't. And in my mind, looking at this, Flavio and Alonso can't tolerate change, right? And to the same extent, Jordan can't tolerate change. They don't want to change. They want to see F1 in the light that it was 20 years ago. In reality, it has changed a shit ton. And if you can't adopt to it, you're going to lose out. And you may fight like hell to stay in there. But at the end of the day, if you're refusing to accept change, there's only one place you're going, right? And the analogy that I've heard recently in some of the discussions I've had is it's like drinking coffee on a roller coaster, right? You can picture that. Picture trying to drink a cup of coffee while on a roller coaster, right? Trying to adjust to every movement that's being made to try and catch it, right? It's difficult. It's hard. No one wants to do that. But if you can master doing that, you're on top. But guys like Flavio and Alonso don't want to do it. They want to do what they do every day, all day, and they refuse to accept anything else. But they're not good enough to cater to that, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
They're not good enough to overcome the deficits that they bring with them, with their attitude.
Yes.
That's a great point, because Alpine may have needed an attitude change, but staying steady with the personnel they had, he's destroying all of that. He's destroying all the personnel and saying, "Don't worry, we just got to change the attitude." It's like, no, you're right. So much has changed in 20 years. Like, you can't just do what you did before. You got to stick with the people who have been here. This is now the third, team principal in 3 years. What do you think you're going to achieve here?
Yep.
Nothing.
And this is just it. Like, they think they're going back to something. They think they found it, right? Flavio had this team as world champions before. Okay. So what? Does this mean if you bring back Ross Brawn that he would make Ferrari a world championship team again? He won with Brawn. Okay. He won with Ferrari. Okay. If anything, he's the more likely person to be able to come back and make a winning team out of it.
I was going to say. Yeah.
Because he's recently been involved in the changes that have happened in the FIA and F1. But I guarantee you, he would look at that and go, well, you're not set up to do this. And then he'd be fucking fired for talking back to the French.
Or to Flavio, yeah. And like, Flavio's narcissism, I think, is guiding him here. He's saying, like, I'm that good without facing reality, and I'm going to make them good again. And it doesn't matter. Like he said it on Drive Formula for Success. It's like, I don't care about the driver. I'll make the car win, and the car will be good enough so that they'll win. It's like, you're missing a lot of steps there. And you were never that guy who made that car. There was a good team around you, or the FIA changing the rules for you at the right time. Anyway.
Right. And I'll throw out another example of Patrick Head, who was the top of Williams F1 when they were true champions. When Newey was there, Patrick was there. Patrick is a well-respected engineer in F1. But his comments about drivers are a little off, in my opinion and in others' opinions. So one of the famous things that Patrick Head has said is that drivers are like light bulbs. You unscrew one, you screw in another one. Implying that the car does the work. The driver is just there to move it. I don't agree with that. As an engineer, you would think that my preference would be that, yeah, the car is perfect. You put anybody in it, it will win. But no, I'm not that arrogant.
I agree.
It takes a skilled driver to drive a good car. And we talked about this previously. A good car can be driven fast by anybody, but a good car can be exponentially faster in the hands of a good driver.
I think we'll wrap it up
And
there.
that's where I think,
That's where I
yeah,
think. Yeah,
and
finish
that's
that.
where I think Flavio has it wrong.
Yeah. I think that sums it up perfectly. You're right. Yeah. That's two different examples. Patrick Head, I think I remember you saying got it completely wrong one year and Williams had to fire him because of that mentality or something like that. Yeah. Was it Patrick Head?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, not necessarily that, but Patrick Head has had a couple of blunders in his career. That's why we know about Newey more than we know about Patrick.
Okay. We went way over our time. So I think we'll stop it there. I got you fired up today. You did really good.
To be honest with you, I was kind of pissed off about a couple other things, but it's not important. But it ended up being a good conversation, so I'm okay with that.
I appreciate you taking the time. So we'll be back after Imola. Give yourself a nice break. Take a couple breaths. And hopefully I can get you fired up again.
Well, Nick, do you know what the Imola Grand Prix weekend is?
It's my friend's birthday. So I won't be talking to you that day.
Your friend's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a
you don't
very
have friends, Nick.
I have a very important friend's birthday that weekend, so I won't be talking to you. Yeah.
Who allegedly you're not coming to see, but okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes. You are turning 30 finally, as far as everyone's
I don't
concerned.
know, 52.
Okay, one of the two. Yeah. And on that,
And on that note.
and on that note, all right. Have a good night.
Good night, Nick.
Good night, everybody.